Hello, friends. That was really weird. I don't know where my eyeballs went for a minute, but they were odd. Apparently, I needed to close my eyes for that flight. Anyway, hello. How is everybody? I feel like it's been a few days and since I checked in, and um, I am super excited to just see how everybody's doing and talk about some things today. Uh, I wanted to show everybody my little farm, so I really did some improvements. I did some trees. I'm going to take down that section of land right there and build some things. But yeah, so each one of my areas, so this is cows, they've got a nice little water feature and um, stuff like that. And then you kind of see the inside of my barn. This one's pigs and sheep. So far I only have one sheep, but I'm wanting to get some different color ones, and I just haven't found any yet. And then my chickens, oh, they're so cute. I got lots of chickens. And this would be horses, and I've got only 2 horses so far, and I love them so much. They're so pretty. I love paint horses in real life, and I love these ones in Minecraft. I just think they're beautiful. Um, so yeah, how is everybody? How's everybody been? It's been a pretty okay week this week. It's just, the daily grind, right? Going to work, coming home, dealing with responsibilities, finding some time to relax and be who you want to be. And yeah, it's just been a pretty good week. So I'm not sure what I want to work on today. I think I'm going to fly up here and just look around and decide. Today, as far as talking, I wanted to talk about a couple things. So, PTSD, and also a little bit about overstimulation and how that can affect it. So, um, obviously, if you've watched my first video, you know that I deal with some issues, and I feel like PTSD is one of them. I feel like PTSD can stem from a lot of issues, and anybody can have it. And some people can have it that don't even know that they have it. But some it can be from extremely traumatic experiences, life or death experiences, or a lot of our military, regardless of what country you live in, they experience PTSD because of what they go through, what they have to see, what they have to endure. But PTSD can also stem from other things, maybe things that happened during your childhood, maybe things that, maybe things that aren't as traumatic as life and death as well. Maybe you've been in an abusive relationship, maybe maybe someone in your life has been mentally abusive to you throughout your life. A lot of things can cause PTSD. Maybe you've been in a car accident and now you're really afraid of cars. It can come from a lot of things. And, and little things can trigger it. That's the thing. That's the scary thing. And that's the thing that how do we deal with that in a healthy way? There was one, I feel like I have a little bit of PTSD, and I feel like mostly mine comes from, well, there's a lot of things it comes from. But, and some of those things I'm not 100% ready to talk about yet on here. But, one of them for me is loud noises. And that could be a part of some of my mental conditions as well, that loud noises bother me. But I know some of it stems from some PTSD of a lot of yelling that went on in and around my household early in life, or in and around my environment, right? And it wasn't always from everyone. Like, you don't get me wrong, I'm not on here saying I had like these horrible parents and all this stuff, but my parents weren't 100% great either. But either way, that's not what this discussion is about. However, the loud, constant yelling did affect me throughout my life, to a point of when I hear loud noises now, and the loud noises, I think, comes from more than just, enduring a lot of yelling in my environment throughout my childhood. But I think the loud noises come from some other experiences that I've had in life that, again, like I said, I'm just not ready to talk about. And I'll get there. Eventually y'all all are going to know all my dirty little secrets. I'm just kidding. But no, I definitely, it definitely was a source of trauma in my life. So when I say like little things can set it off, let me explain. So we have a rescue. We rescue animals here at my house, and so I have a gate. I have this room between like where my living room is and the back area of my house is. There's like a gate that keeps some of the smaller, like one of my dogs away from bothering a couple of the cats that we've rescued. And so I had bought this gate, and I thought, oh my gosh, this gate is so great, because we have one of our dogs is a very large breed dog, like gigantor breed dog, okay? And so we wanted a gate that it's like mounts to the wall, right? Because he will, if he jumps up on it, like we used to have a gate that was just like pressure mounted to the wall. You know how it just has those like little things that like they just pressure mount, and you just screw them really tight to the wall, and then it just like kind of sticks itself to the wall. Well, that didn't work for him because he's so big that when he would jump up on it, it would just push it right off of the wall. And so I wanted one that like mounted to the wall, And so I got one, and it's like this mesh gate where like the two sides mount to the wall, and then the mesh comes out of this like little pole, and then it like hooks onto the other side of the gate, and then that's like the gate, right? Well, one of our littler dogs that we rescued, she can squeeze her little butt under the mesh of the gate and get through. And we were like, dang it, that's not going to work. And so we are going to get another wall-mounted gate that's a little bit more secure that she can't squeeze under. But in the meantime, we've just had one of those gray baby gates in the way of the mesh gate, as like a double barrier so that she can't squeeze her little butt under it anymore. And this darn gate, every stinking time, because it doesn't like stick to the wall very good where it's at, because there's really no like wall per se for it to stick very well to. It's more of just like a baseboard through that entranceway, and so it doesn't stick very good. And my cats When they jump over it, they will knock it over, and it makes the loudest, I mean, the loudest banging noise on the darn planet. Like it shakes me to my core every single stinking time it happens. And it's only for a moment, and I know, it's nobody's fault, so I try not to get too upset. And I know that it's only temporary because we are going to get that other gate to fix the issue. But it's just the fact that it happens. Like, it triggers me so bad every time, and it makes my heart beat faster. I hate it. That feeling of like the PTSD, when you're in that moment of PTSD and you're in that scare space, right? And man, it just gets me every time to the point where it really just shakes me to my core. And I don't know how to just, let it go. And I don't think with PTSD you can just let it go, right? I think you have to, I don't know. I think I'm going to leave this open because I kind of like that there's this odd little crack in the ground. Anyway, it's not something you can control when you have PTSD. And I know that there's like counseling out there and things you can do in coping mechanisms. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people with PTSD that have those. I just don't have those yet. And I need to probably find some because, and it's not just that, there's other things that definitely trigger it as well. But that was just an example of what can trigger PTSD. So I would love to hear if anybody out there has, PTSD and how they cope, like what you're doing. I think one, for me, I think especially in those moments when that gate falls and it just triggers me so bad, the biggest thing I try to do, and I'm not perfect. I will tell you, sometimes when it falls, I just yell swear words. I'm like, gosh, like, I'm not going to say it on here, obviously, because this is a family space. But, sometimes I just yell obscenities. And I shouldn't do that. I don't want to be one of those people that's constantly screaming in my house because obviously I don't want to cause those same issues for my son. So it's definitely not all the time. Most of the time, I do just try to take a deep breath, remember that it was just a noise. One thing I learned in dental assisting, I'll just say this real quick before I move on, but and has really helped me over the years is that when I was in dental assisting, we would practice on each other's teeth sometimes. And one thing that I learned was a lot of people that go to the dentist hate the dentist because they feel like it's so painful. But really, a lot of the procedures you get done at the dentist really aren't that painful. It's the noise. It's the noise of the drill. And you have to remember, one thing I learned is that noise, your brain, if it hears a noise that it associates with pain, it will automatically tell your body that you're in pain. And so you'll automatically think that you're in pain. But if you tell yourself, it's like training your brain, right? If you tell yourself that noise does not mean pain, then 9 times out of 10, you'll realize that you're not actually in any pain. And I use that now when I go to the dentist, and actually it's helped me so much to the point where I actually can get fillings sometimes if they're not deep without even getting anesthetic, because I know in my head that noise does not mean pain, right? So I've actually been able to get fillings without getting numb at all before, which is pretty cool, I think. But anyway, yeah, so Sorry, my alarm on my phone was going off. That was weird. So anyway, yeah, I think that can relate to PTSD a little bit, right? Like I take that deep breath when that gate falls down and I say, noise does not mean pain, right? Like, I'm okay. It was just a noise. It was just a noise. Like, having those little coping mechanisms, even if it's only telling yourself it was just a noise, can be a game changer for people, I think, with PTSD. And I'm, I don't, like I said, I'm not a professional counselor or anything like that. And I can't promise anybody that I can fix anybody, but I'm just sharing my own experiences in hopes that what I've experienced can help someone. And for me, that's a big one. And the other thing that I think plays into that is overstimulation. Overstimulation. I've been wanting to talk about that lately. So, overstimulation is a big one for me. And I don't think I realized it was a thing for a long time until I was older. And I remember I would go do like these really fun things with like friends or whatever. And I would come home, and I even sometimes still do this, and I'm definitely not proud of it, but I would come home and then all of a sudden I would just be like overwhelmingly sad or overwhelmingly angry. And I would like, cause a fight with the person I was with or whatever, And one person pointed out to me one time, I think you have a problem with overstimulation. And of course I had an attitude about it. And I was like, well, why do you think that? Because here we are, we're not perfect, and we always think people are attacking us. That's the other thing. When people tell you something about yourself, you have to realize they're not attacking you, right? They're just telling you what they see and observe. Well, what this person saw and observed was that anytime I did something that was really fun or really exciting or really stimulating, I immediately was either sad or in a really bad mood. And that is a huge part of mental health, I believe, overstimulation. So I guess ways that I have dealt with that over the years is I just try to realize, wow, I traveled to the zoo in Salt Lake today, and it was super, super fun, and we did all this really cool stuff, and maybe I need to take a step back and take a couple breaths and reflect on what I did today before I, that's bipolar 2 disorder right there for you. Really high highs and really low lows. I've been on that really high high all day, and at some point you got to come down, but it's the coming down off of being super excited or doing something super fun that can cause the problem sometimes. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody or if anybody else experiences that, but I do notice that that's a thing for me. And I think that can play into, overstimulation can play into PTSD too, because you're overstimulated, therefore your emotions are overstimulated. So then your emotions get overstimulated. Before you know it, you're sad. Before you know it, you're experiencing a little bit of anxiety. And then that can obviously, set off your PTSD because it's that traumatic feeling, all over again. And things in life, whether they're happy or exciting or not happy or not exciting, they don't have to trigger that in us. Like, I really think we need to learn to just be okay where we are and with who we are. I don't know if that makes any sense. Am I making any sense, you guys? I don't know. This is my son's stuff that he has built. I have no idea, but I'm going to let him show you that in a video. Right now I'm just kind of clearing this land. I would like to get in my house and do some decorating, so maybe we'll go do that. I've been trying to get that into grass too, and I've got a whole outside area I want to build over here. I finished my barn area, so once I get all that cleared, I want to start some other animal enclosures over here. This one I want to be low, kind of, because I want it to be beautiful, but I don't want it to cover the trees like the barn house did. So this one might end up being, I don't know yet. Turtles, or that'd be cute. Turtles next to the ocean, kinda. I don't know. We'll see. I don't even know if that's the ocean. That's more of a lake or a river. Anyway, we're gonna go in here. So, this is actually a perfect example of overstimulation. Oh, there's one of my bumblebees. Look at him go. All my bumblebees. They're everywhere. This is a perfect example of overstimulation. While this game is great and it helps me relax, it helps my mind slow down, like, I have so much to get done that it's like, what do I do first? I'm doing like 500 projects at once. But isn't that how life goes anyway, right? We're always doing like 500 projects at once. And I think I'm going to start with this room. So this is my prayer room. I really like this. I've always wanted that. It's been something that's always been a dream of mine to have a prayer room in a house. And for me, that's what it is. I'm sure other people have other things that they would love to have in their house, but for me, I would love a quiet place to just have to gather my thoughts every day. And I think it would be amazing. And if I ever have enough money to build a house big enough to have a room dedicated to that, I will totally do it. But here we are. So I kind of like that better. That like splits that up a little bit, Should I put another one over here? I should. Anyway, yeah, so going back to PTSD, I feel like there's so many different forms of it, and like, how do we, one, know that it's something that's affecting our lives, right? Because not everybody knows that they have PTSD, but some people deal with traumatic experiences. And it's those little triggers, right? You may not know that you have PTSD, but in your life you have these little triggers, these little things that just, like the gate, immediately just make you feel overwhelmed. And you don't know why, or immediately just make you feel like shut down and anxiety kicks in and you're afraid, or you're just immediately, in another place. I have heard that, like, especially with our veterans, like some of the people that have PTSD, they'll be triggered by something and they'll immediately go back to, in their mind, or, back to that place that caused it. how do we shut down those thoughts too? That's the other thing, because I can tell you that I do have some experiences that have caused PTSD that I have flashbacks about. And how do you shut those down, right? Um, for me, and I know this is, obviously that I'm not trying to turn this into a church or anything like that, but my higher power, when I have flashbacks, I just start saying Jesus' name, and I just say it over and over and over and over again until it goes away. And maybe other people have other things similar to that they do, maybe there's something that comforts you, a person or a thought that you can go to that could comfort you in those moments. I don't know, but I would just love to hear what other people do in those moments too, because I'm here, I'm on this channel, right, because I want to help people. And but I'm also here to get help too, right? Because this is my therapy. That's why it's called Jenny's Gaming Therapy. This is my safe space to just let it all out. And I know everybody's not going to see it that way. And I've already had friends tell me, don't ever read comments, but I'm going to read them. I'd like to know what you think. I would like to know if you experience the same things I experience. I would like to know if anybody has anything they want to talk about that I haven't talked about yet. I want this to be a place where we can, in this day and age and with everything we've been through in the last few years, we need a safe space. And a lot of people, the word safe space is even controversial because, then you've got, a lot of people out there will say, oh, we didn't have safe spaces when I was a kid. Well, we all don't need safe spaces, and maybe we all do, who knows? But I just want this to be a place where we can talk about these struggles, and where talking about these struggles become normal, because I'll tell you what, far too many people don't talk about these struggles, and we lose them, bottom line. And I can say that I know that because I lost somebody who didn't always care about me the way they should have, but I cared about them. And he took his life. And I have thought about this person a lot. I think about this person probably every day. I talk to this person every day, even though they're not there. And I can tell you what, my thought always and forever will be, if someone had just loved him when he was a child. If someone had just loved him more, and that's my biggest thing. If we could just love each other, instead of always coming against each other, we could really change and save a lot of lives. And I think maybe the outcome for this person wouldn't have been different. And I'm 100% not putting that on myself, because I know this is a choice that person made himself. I don't know, partly because he wanted to make that decision to have control over his own outcome, and maybe partly because there was a lot of pain inside that nobody really knew about. And maybe people did, maybe people knew a little bit more about the pain that he was in than anybody knows. I don't know. I hadn't, this particular person, I hadn't been a part of their lives for a while, and that was that person's choice. But it doesn't mean I didn't love them. And Um, and I think this person struggled with some PTSD himself, probably because of, again, childhood traumas and other traumas he went through. I mean, man, he really lived a life, I'll tell you what. And and man, he had, and here's the thing, like we can all have everything we need. This person had a beautiful family, and they're some of my favorite people in the world. And he still was sad enough that what he chose was better than what he had. And that's why I'm here, right? Therapy for me, but I want to help people. I want to help people. I want to know that what I'm talking about can change someone's life. So, yeah, PTSD, how do we navigate that? What's your coping mechanism? And the other thing that could be good too, maybe this is just me, maybe I just like to ramble on, but talking about your triggers. I know one of my triggers is that gate falling on the ground, hitting the ground. That is one of my triggers. I know that. But one of my triggers is also when people are overly rude to me. That's a huge trigger for me, because part of my PTSD comes from someone who emotionally has abused me almost all my life. She may not have ever been physically abusive, and the crazy thing was she was super loving sometimes, and then sometimes she was overly loving, and then sometimes she was just so mean and cruel every chance she got that it literally damaged the way I look at life. So people being overly rude to me triggers my PTSD pretty hardcore. It makes me feel like, oh man, I put myself through the ringer. We shouldn't have bad self-talk, but I'm going to say the majority of us aren't always very nice to ourselves, right? And that is one thing, man, that can trigger the bad self-talk in me, for sure, is when I feel like someone's being emotionally rude or disrespectful. And so, I don't know, I would just love to hear, like, if you have PTSD, what is your PTSD? Where does it stem from? And then maybe we talk about, like, how to recognize the moments when we're feeling the PTSD, and what is our coping mechanism to pull ourselves away from that trigger. For the gate, for me, it's taking a deep breath. For people being overly hurtful or rude to me, it is, well, that one I don't know yet, because I will, if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, that one, I have a hard time not repaying the kindness, if you know what I mean. I have had a hard time keeping my mouth shut when somebody is meant. So that's one I'm still working on, right? When somebody mentally hurts me, that's one I don't have a coping mechanism for yet. But that's okay, because that's why we're here and that's why we're talking. So, maybe my next week, that's my goal. That can be my goal, to work on what what do I do when somebody is rude towards me, and how do I not let it set me off? And oh no, maybe I don't have an answer for that one. I don't know, but I will try to figure it out. And I would love to hear from everyone and see, what their answer is. All right, this is quite the floor, you guys. Holy Hannah banana. That's an interesting one. It's pretty though. I don't know if I love it, so I don't know if I'm going to keep it. It does kind of match the stained glass window though. But we shall see. Anyway, I love all of you. I thank you all for watching my videos and just being here. And I would love to hear in the comments or any thoughts on today's video. And please like and subscribe. And you can also find me on Facebook at Jenny's Gaming Therapy. And I would love to hear comments, or feel free to message me there as well. If you have anything that you would like to talk about, or want to talk about anything that I've talked about, I'm here. So love everyone, and thank you for the view. And it was an interesting day today. So you guys are awesome. Talk to you later.